welcome back to some more reviews, and they talk about Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. This is a film that, when it first came out, I remember seeing the commercial for it, and I thought, well, it looks kind of goofy, kind of stupid. I was like, really? You're going to go that far and make an idea of Abraham Lincoln as a vampire hunter? And I seen the movie, this DVD, and some people I knew were like, "Oh, you should watch the movie because it's a good movie." And I was like, "I don't know. It kind of looks a little bit stupid. Kind of looks a little bit cheesy." But they told me, like, I know it looks cheesy, but they told me that they knew it looked cheesy, but well, not cheesy. Kind of just the idea was kind of a little bit stupid in my opinion. Right when I first heard about it, just the idea was kind of like, really, vampire hunter Abraham Lincoln, really? And they told me, they're like, it's a good movie, and I was like, okay, I'll buy it. I sat down, and I watched the movie, and I gotta say, is it a great film? No. Is it decent? Yeah, it's a decent flick. I mean, if this movie was, say, because it was 105 minutes, but say it was like 135 minutes, and it was PG-13, and it was a slow film that didn't have any action to it, and maybe you've seen a few vampires here and there. If it was like that, then I wouldn't have liked the movie. But the movie's 105 minutes, I get that, but it goes by at a fast pace. It's a fun movie, it ended up being very fun, and yeah. When I first seen it, I was like, getting ready to watch it, like, man, this looks kind of stupid, and, I don't know. When I first heard about the movie, I was like, okay, not really a movie I plan to see anytime soon, but, I seen the DVD, and, a couple people I knew, they were like, well, you should buy the movie, it's a good movie. I was like, okay. So I bought it, and I watched it. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. Now, basically, what it's about is, the title alone says what this movie is about. Abraham Lincoln, shows him as a kid, and pretty much you find out that his parents were murdered by a vampire, but he doesn't know that yet. And basically, he grows up into the young adult Abraham Lincoln through the years. Grows up, and he goes after the guy, trying to get revenge, and he finds that the guy that killed his parents was a vampire. Well, I think it was his mom. I think it just killed his mom. And the vampire, or the guy that killed his mom, was a vampire. And pretty much, he, gets attacked by the vampire, and he gets help. Pretty much he gets assistance from a sort of vampire who is not really proud of being a vampire. He kind of wants to be a human again. But he's pretty much a vampire, but he hates vampires. So he's like a vampire hunter. He's a vampire, but he's a vampire hunter. And, he hates vampires, and, he hates being a vampire. And, pretty much joins Abraham Lincoln joins, this vampire, which try to get the name of the character. I think it's Henry Stooges. Yeah. About Dominic Cooper, which was an okay character. I mean, the acting was decent from Dominic Cooper and Benjamin Walker and Anthony Mackie and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She did an okay job. Which she's also been in The Thing, the prequel, which I don't like personally, and Final Destination 3, which I thought was pretty decent. And this movie, she did a decent job. Pretty decent. And you got Rufus Sewell as sort of the head vampire. Well, not the head vampire, but the vampire kind of leading this group of vampires. From Hercules, A Knight's Tale, The Illusionist, and Dark City. And pretty much, Abraham Lincoln gets trained by this vampire, and he found that he gets these certain powers, and he's able to chop down a tree in one hit. Takes the axe and just hits a tree, and it chops down just one hit. You find out that he has his axe with silver on it, so he can kill the vampires. and you finally can flip the axe around and throw it, and do all kinds of martial arts with the axe, which I thought was pretty decent. He trains, gets ready for the for taking out the vampires, hunting the vampires, and pretty much like I said, he trains to become a vampire hunter, and pretty much he starts off small. He goes to one vampire. It beats him up a little bit. Then he finally slays the vampire and kills it. And he kind of works his way up to this vampire that's sort of the lead of these vampires. Which, yes, I know this is far fetched. The idea of the whole like I think it's like the Civil War. The idea of the Civil War and the blue being the humans and the gray being the vampires. It was kind of like, really, that's kind of far fetched. But I do think that's an interesting idea, how they kind of tie real historic events into the film. Like the silver meltdown, where Abraham Lincoln ordered all the silver to be gathered and melted down to the bullets. I mean, the way that they tied certain real events into it, the idea of them tying the Civil War in there, which, yeah, I know it's far fetched, but it's a kind of an interesting idea. How they tie in certain real events, and basically, he works his way up. Slays this vampire. He, kills other vampires. Works his way up to this lead vampire, which pretty much he's leading, like I said, this army, and they're gonna take out the rest of the humans. And pretty much Abraham Lincoln thinks the vampire is gone, and then you have pretty much Abraham Lincoln in his middle ages, about 50 or 60 years old, and the makeup about was done well, pretty well done makeup, and pretty much like I said, Abraham Lincoln puts away the axe, says he doesn't want to become a vampire hunter anymore, and pretty much just like I said, puts the axe away, and he isn't going to be a vampire hunter anymore. And then, like I said, it goes to when he's in his middle ages and 50 or 60 years old, and they had makeup, which I thought was pretty well done, the makeup on the aged Abraham Lincoln. And pretty much you find out that the Civil War is going on, and the gray is the vampires, and the blue is the humans. And like I said, Abraham Lincoln gathers up all the silver and turns them to bullets. The only thing he has to do, though, is he has to ship the bullets to the actual soldiers on the train. So he has to pretty much go on the train. So he has to pretty much get back out the axe and go and hunt some more vampires. And he gets on the train, guards the train, and just fights the lead vampire, ends up killing it, falls, and into like the fire because the entire bridge catches on fire. And he's like, "This isn't the silver. Yeah, it's not this train. It's another train. It's either that or it's like another crate or something like that." It's like the lead vampire thinks that this is the actual silver, and then he's like, "No, this isn't silver. There's a different train or a different crate or something like that. Different train, I think." And then the vampire and Abraham Lincoln, they fight. Abraham Lincoln, pretty much kills it. And you have the end of the movie where the Civil War is won, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. And like I said, Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies gets a 3.2, which I didn't see the full movie yet, but obviously it's pretty bad if it gets a 3.2. Yeah, a 3.2 out of 10. That's obviously it's a bit bad. It's a bit bad. But I know it's like, oh, you haven't even seen the full movie yet. You can't judge it. It could be a good film. Yeah, but when I seen the beginning of the movie, and like I said, the only decent things in those movies, the only decent things in that movie, is the idea of, like, forgot to mention this, the idea of sort of the scythe that Abraham Lincoln has. He can just push the button and it retracts, and he takes a scythe and starts chopping off zombies' heads and stuff like that, and killing zombies. That's a decent idea. The idea of a the scythe and the tractable blade and just killing zombies, and that was a decent idea. like I said, decent idea. And the guy that played Abraham Lincoln in that movie, I think, played the character a little bit more better than this one in this movie, and it looked a little bit more like Abraham Lincoln. But I gotta say, this is definitely better film. This is definitely a better film because it was well shot. Now, do I have problems with the movie? Yeah. You do have some pretty catchy, not catchy, pretty bad CGI. And it's mainly when the 3D element plays in, because it's like, an axe going to the camera, or, because there's a point where the vampire gets slammed against a building and the wood pieces come at the camera. It's like, that was done for 3D, and I get it. It was probably, good when you see it in 3D, but when you see it in the movie, it's like, okay, really? Come right at the camera. The 3D CGI. Some CGI enhancements on the vampire was kind of bad. So yeah, and the score, it wasn't really that memorable. I don't know. I mean, it's a decent flick. I can say that's a decent flick. It's an okay movie. Definitely not a bad movie. But is it amazing? Is it awesome? Is it a great, awesome horror film? It's not a great, awesome horror film. It's a decent horror film. It's okay. I recommend it if you're a fan of vampire films. But don't expect this to be like an awesome, action extravaganza and a great horror movie. It's not. It's a decent horror film at best. So yeah, don't expect to be seeing, any like, amazing horror film. It's not amazing. It's just decent. It's alright. Decent flick. And I liked certain ideas to the movie. The idea of when he was a kid, he sees his kid getting whipped, and he decided to step in, and he gets whipped as well. And, the idea that that kid grew up to be his assistant. And just certain ideas, like, the idea of just, the idea that I rejected at first was like, okay, this is not decent, this is goofy and stupid. The idea of Abraham Lincoln versus zombies, or Abraham Lincoln being not zombies, okay, my brain is now mixed up between Abraham Lincoln versus zombies and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Let me get this straight. I like the idea now of Abraham Lincoln versus vampires. When I first heard about it, I was like, it's a goofy idea. I don't know about this movie. And I was in the middle of watching it, and, it's got some great action scenes. Abraham Lincoln, there is CGI, but there's also practical effects. Abraham Lincoln taking an axe and chopping the vampire's head off, and chopping vampires into pieces, and just well done action scenes, and well done suspense scenes, and well done gloomy atmosphere to it. And little ideas I thought were pretty decent. The idea of the axe, the idea of tying in the real events in real life to the storyline, real historic events that's happened to tie it into the storyline was a pretty interesting idea. And I mean, I thought decent acting, likable characters, just a decent flick. I found some enjoyment out of the movie. I'm guessing Tim Burton. Was it Tim Burton? Yeah. Yeah, Tim Burton was involved in the movie as well. Which probably kind of explains the atmosphere to it. It's definitely got a Tim Burton feel to the movie. Directed by Timur Bekmambetov. Very, very complicated last name. And basically, I'm going to try and see if he's directed anything else. He's directed The Area, Night Watch, Day Watch, Wanted, and I don't really see any other ones that I've heard about. Like, I haven't even heard or is that The Arena? Yeah, it's The Arena. I said The Area. It's The Arena. So yeah, he's made The Arena, which I haven't really heard about. Now, Night Watch and Day Watch I heard about. Wanted, I've seen a little bit of it. But probably, I'd say this was, out of the films I've seen, probably his best film. I mean, it's not a great film, like I said, and I keep repeating myself. I know, I'm sorry, I apologize, but I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's decent. It's a little bit fun. It's a little bit entertaining. If you're a fan of vampire movies, it's a fun vampire flick. And yeah, so I really don't know what to say about this movie other than it's decent. Definitely recommend it. Well, I don't definitely recommend it. I mean, I recommend it for vampire horror movie fans. Horror movie fans that are fans of vampire flicks. I recommend it for that. But I mean, it's decent. So, guys, thanks for watching my review on Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I'll see you guys next review. Bye, guys.